whether you're new and ambitious or experienced and been in the business for ages, you still want to have your credibility and your reputation recorded digitally so that when people are referring you, then a lot of people, they go and check online right away.
Welcome back to In the House podcast. I'm Toni Singh.
And I'm Jenny Woon.
And we have a super special guest today, Dave ZIRNHELT. Hello, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Hi there. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Dave is the founder of RateMyAgent.com.
And how I found you, Dave, if you want to know.
I do want to know.
Okay, so a lot of our episodes get posted on REM, which is real estate.
As in Real Estate Magazine?
Yeah, Real Estate Magazine online. And so you know how they send out once a week or I think it's once a week, e-newsletters. And so I often read who else is they're featuring. And so you were part of that one feature for 1 week. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do a little bit more research and see if we can add this to one of our episodes.
Yeah.
Part of my long list of things I wanted to do this year and this spring to sort of start figuring out who's doing what in online media with real estate. And I thought, with all the podcast growth there must be people, even in Canada, that are, exploring that space. And so when you reached out, it was very prescient and serendipitous, I would say.
Oh. It's the universe, Dave. It seems like it just worked out perfectly.
We always have an icebreaker question.
Yes.
I mean, I think we've already broke the ice prior to us starting this episode, but it tells a lot to our listeners how you answer. So our question is, what is your spirit animal?
Yeah, well, I've been listening to a few of your episodes, so I expected this one.
Oh, darn it. Well, good on you for listening.
I did not have an answer until I had heard your other episodes, and at first I was stumped, but then I thought of it and I thought, I'm kind of like a mountain goat because I love, literally I do love climbing mountains, not climbing like a rock climber, but I like running and just being on trails and being outside on mountains, and they inspire me. And you kind of have a different feeling when you're there. But also a mountain goat is pretty adventurous. And that to me is what life is all about. It's just exploring and enjoying the adventure.
Mm-hmm. So I was going to tell us about yourself and tell our listeners a little bit about yourself. So sounds like you're an adventurist. You like the outdoors, hiking. So tell us about tell us about yourself and what interested you to build Rate My Agent.
All right. Well, as you know, I like to be active outside, and personally, I love traveling, and I've seen tons of the world, all continents except for Antarctica, and I like, and this is part of why I built the website business, is because you can do it from wherever you are. And this isn't my first. I built my first online business was an online furniture store. Cool. Back in 2002 is when we started that, and people said, "You're crazy. That'll never work." But we stuck with it long enough, and it did not turn out to be the magical scenario I was hoping, where I could just work from wherever I wanted. I was a lot younger at the time, and roaming around the world seemed like a lot more. It was a very important part of why I started an online business, along with just there's so many other factors to being online that you give you advantages that you don't get with a brick and mortar or traditional business. And then in terms of how we came up with Rate My Agent, I actually had a different online real estate site that I essentially was just looking to add reviews to, and I thought, well, there must be realtor reviews out there somewhere. I started looking around, and I found this website, RateMyAgent.com. Then it looked kind of abandoned, and like nobody was taking care of it. And so I just I found somehow who owned it, and I reached out to them by email, and by chance they got back to me, and I said, I'm interested in using your data with this site, and they just said, you know what, you should just buy it off me. It'll be way easier and cheaper. And so I bought the website for $500 back in 2013.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. And from my other experience of being an online entrepreneur, I just started doing some experiments on it to see if we could get the content to rank in search engines and see what would happen after that happened, which it did luckily start ranking. And then we started hearing from agents saying that they were getting people reaching out to them, and some of them were unhappy agents who had somebody leave a nasty review about them, and then they called and threatened me about that. And so it wasn't a straight road by any means. I had some people ruin my day a few times, and I for quite a while I honestly kind of ignored the site because it wasn't my main vision to start with in terms of doing online real estate. But it kept growing by itself, just organically over time, and more people, agents and buyers and sellers, were reaching out, and it just essentially forced its way to be my top priority, and we've really built it into something that's doing a lot of good right now. In fact, our vision for the company is see how much good we can do, and we pledge 50% of profit to worthy causes, so that's kind of part of that.
Oh,
I noticed
wow.
that. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So what's your background? Is it in
tech?
in coding, in e-commerce?
Yeah, well, I did a lot of e-commerce. I am not the coding person. I don't do any programming at all. I've worked with a lot of programmers over the years, so I speak their language a bit, in terms of how their minds work and what can be done and what can't be done and how. And so, no, we have one programmer, Adam, on the team who's fantastic, and many of the successes and milestones we've had in the last few years are thanks to him and how well he can add the tools and just work with me to bring ideas to life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So share with us how this website works.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about that, and I think why it works is kind of the most important thing, and that is that buyers and sellers find it, and then they hire agents. And the reason is we do focus on buyers and sellers first, not the agents. We want to make sure that we're being honest and true to the purpose of it, which is to help people find the right agent and avoid the wrong agent. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of other platforms out there that are, they pretend to be one thing and they do a different thing, so to speak. And so we're very focused on taking care of the buyers and sellers first. And when we do that, we know that the agents will be rewarded, the good agents, the agents who are essentially playing by the rules and getting legitimate reviews. Then they float to the top and they get a lot of business from the website. So does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because we were going to ask what makes your website different than the other review platforms, so that's perfect.
Yeah, well, there's a couple other points related to that, in that over time we realized that there's a lot of people try to cheat the rankings. They post fake reviews. Now, no other site bothers really doing much about that, including Google. Mm-hmm. But we actually penalize cheaters on our website. So the last couple of years now, we've been doing that. And this past year, there was 13 different agents who posted enough fake reviews. And here's how the penalty works: is they get essentially a warning put on their profile that says, "Warning: we have suspicions of infractions of this agent breaking their policies," which the policy is no fake reviews. You can't pretend to be your client and post on their behalf. And then, so that they get that warning for 2 weeks for every fake review that we have evidence of, and a $500 fine for each one, paid to a charity of our choice. So this past year, so 2021, $93,000 of fines have been levied, and we haven't collected on any of those yet because the year just finished. But if those agents want the warning removed from their profile after their penalty time frame is up, then they have to pay the fine to the charity that we choose. So in the past year, we have had agents pay it, and we have contributed significantly.
How do you detect that, though? Is it via an algorithm or something? That's interesting.
Yeah, it's tricky, and I give Adam a lot of credit for that too. And initially, we did it manually, where you just be able to spot patterns, and then so regardless of how you spot it, whether we use manually with people or algorithms, now we do both. What we do is we ask the agents, "Hey, we've spotted a suspicious pattern on your reviews. Are all these reviews legitimate, or is it possible that some of them aren't?" Because somebody else could come post a review that's fake, and the agent could say, no, that wasn't me. I that's not a legitimate review. So then they wouldn't be caught cheating. But when they claim that the review is legitimate, even after we've said that there's some suspicious activity, then they're complicit in cheating. And that's how we determine. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you're sending
Yeah.
them a warning, is it behind the scene, like on their dashboard, or is it actually public online for viewers to see?
Once they've been verified as cheating, because there's quite a process to figure that out, then it's public on the profile.
I have a different question, if I can ask. I'm just
Yeah.
curious because all of this, I'm like, wow, people try and cheat this system. You must have a lot of time on your hands. But I was going to say, do you ever get reviews from, I was actually thinking it could be a realtor trying to sabotage another realtor. Do you know what I mean by leaving a fake review? Can you detect
I do know
anything
what
like,
you
or
mean.
do you know what I mean? Or a member of the public who actually was not a client, but do you ever get people, like really nasty people sometimes, just leaving negative reviews? Because that happens on Google and other platforms sometimes.
Right. And so there's kind of two aspects to that. One is trying to make it look like a fake review so that the agent gets caught cheating, which is very unlikely. We haven't seen really any of that activity yet. But your other question is, what if somebody's trying to essentially drag somebody's name through the mud and posting possibly fake things about them on their profile? Then, yeah, there's a verification process for that as well. And, sometimes that's the default of what agents think is, oh, somebody's trying to drag me through the mud. This is fake. But there's a verification process. So, we have people be able to prove that they did have that transaction and interaction with that agent. And that agent can reply and say, well, no, this wasn't the case. I was the seller's agent and this buyer is just mad about this. Right?
That's what I was kind of thinking, right? Because I think it's good, but you also wouldn't be able to assume that a negative review is from an actual client, right? That can happen a lot where their agent was not doing their proper job, right? And they want to blame somebody. So the other agent who was actually doing the proper job negotiated really well. It's never happened to me. I'm just saying hypothetical. So I could see it as being possible.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Those situations come up, and it is a very tricky.
Hard for you.
Yeah, it is. But when it comes down to it, somebody does actually have to do that job, and at least on our platform, both sides of the story get told, and buyers and sellers can come to the site and see that. That is this. That I can see clearly what happened on both sides here, right?
Yeah.
It's transparent.
So what if an agent, so I have to sign up on your website in order to get ratings or reviews, correct?
Yeah. However, anybody can actually create a profile for you on the site, just like say on Yelp or TripAdvisor. Anybody can create a profile for a business they want to review, because if you want to leave a negative review about somebody and it's legit, you shouldn't need that business's permission to post that review, right?
And so that's it leads into my next question is if that rating was poor, like the agent did something that was maybe not was like to satisfaction, but to that buyer or client it was like a poor service, but it doesn't really tell the whole story. Is it possible for the agent to kind of take it off of your website?
No. Short answer is no. So there is a process. So the agent can definitely tell their side. They get to reply to it. So then it adds that kind of clarity. But, there's a verification process as well. So if somebody is trying to anonymously libel an agent or slander an agent, and they're not willing to put their real name and take legal authority and responsibility for that review, then we could remove it in that instance. But it's not specifically because the agent asked for it. It's because the person posting it isn't meeting standards that we've set for what's a legitimate review or not. Does that make sense?
It does. It sounds like you're really trying to make sure that the consumer can find an awesome agent, somebody that's really integrous and doing their job properly. And then B, it sounds like transparency is something that is paramount to your platform and obviously the information that you're bringing to consumers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's other platforms that are built basically as marketing platforms for agents that don't have any negative reviews at all. Like a 4-star might be the lowest you can find for an agent. And that doesn't help consumers really at all because they all look the same, and they definitely aren't helping the consumers avoid the wrong agents. And what we've found from talking to agents is that most agents are great agents, and they are bothered by the bad apples of agents more than anybody. Mm-hmm. And they don't want that. They want people to know who to avoid. They don't want to have to go around and say, hey, you should not deal with that person, not deal with that person. They want there to be a platform for the public to determine who's right and who's not. Yeah. And you can't have a platform do that for people if there's no negative reviews. I mean, it's impossible that there would be no negative experiences for consumers in such a big industry.
So how does your website help an agent that's just starting off and they're like super ambitious to get a lot of online presence versus someone who's signing up on your website and they're like years in and they just want they're an experienced agent. So is there maybe different ways that you would help the two different types of agents?
Not necessarily. It's essentially the same for both of them in terms of it's essentially digital word of mouth. So whether you're new and ambitious or experienced and been in the business for ages, you still want to have your credibility and your reputation recorded digitally so that when people are referring you, then a lot of people, they go and check online right away. Oh, who is this person? And whether you're brand new or have been doing it for years, when people do that, they need to find you and see a track record.
Some agents are often shy or fearful for asking for testimonials. Maybe it's because of their service, I'm not sure. But what are some do's and don'ts, in your opinion, when asking for an online review? Do you have any of those?
I do, yeah. So definitely do ask for it. I think that's a critical piece that, as you said, a lot of agents miss. It's a pretty common practice in business these days for most successful businesses are asking people for reviews on whichever platform is most relevant to their business, their industry. So it's a professional thing that consumers are expecting. They're not insulted when you ask for a review, and they know it's optional. They don't have to, and if they don't, that's fine. I would say systemize it. Use a system to make sure you're doing it with all of your clients. And if you're on RateMyAgent, there is a system built into it for you to do that. I would say do not cheat and fake reviews.
Of course.
That's definitely a no-no. And especially on our site, you can and will get caught and get penalized. So, we're trying to spread the word out there. In case there's people on the fence wondering, should I cheat or not? Definitely not, and you will get caught and penalized. So now we're making sure the deterrent is known. I would say do not ask for multiple reviews on multiple platforms. Don't expect your client to do all your marketing work for you. You can give them options. You can say, choose whichever platform is most convenient for you as the client. Pick a few platforms that you maybe want to be recognized on, or just pick one that you know is going to work well for you. But don't treat them like your virtual assistant and get them to copy and paste reviews onto every platform you can think of.
You brought up a really good, you said you have a format or a way for agents to ask for the testimonial or the review. So is it an automated, scripted text that you have pre-written for them and they just send it off to the agent and making it sound like it's coming from them?
Yes, 100%. Exactly. So we have two versions. One is our built into the free version of the site, and it essentially sends their client one request. And it's a template that works. There's an upgraded version we call our Reviews Assistant, which is available to premium subscribers, and it is a smart follow-up tool. So when you put your client's name and email address in, it sends them the first request, a second, and a third. Now, the smart part is it recognizes when the client comes and leaves a review, so it won't send the second follow-up if they've already come to leave a review, nor the third again if they've posted the review in the meantime. So again, professionals follow up, and I've had agents be worried that they're pestering their clients if they follow up, but that's a misconception of what people expect. Most people, especially these days, people get their email on their phone and they go, oh yeah, I'll get to that later. But then 100 more emails come in and they don't quite get to it. But then you send a second follow-up and they go, oh yeah, I meant to do that. And now it moves higher on their priority list. And most times we get a better engagement rate of people leaving the review after the follow-up email than the first email. So you're leaving a lot of people out in the cold, so to speak, if you're not doing the follow-up. And any professional knows that there's follow-up. And you should probably do more than 3 even, but we know this is a sensitive thing for the agents, so we left it at 2 follow-ups. The initial request and 2 follow-ups, so 3 emails total.
Fair enough. How does an agent track if a lead comes through your website, which is RateMyAgent? Do they get a notification, or can you link it with a CRM?
It's a great question that is basically all on the agent. So at this point, no, we don't have it synced up with a CRM, but we do ask agents regularly. And what our site does is when the agent asks the client for a review, the first question is, did you originally hire this agent on RateMyAgent? About 17% of people, last time I checked, are claiming they hired the agent on RateMyAgent. So there is that piece, which shows right up on the review how many people did hire the agent on RateMyAgent to start with.
So once you get to set up your profile, like how much information is on there? Like a picture, links to perhaps all your social media. So how much information is uploaded about the agent?
It's essentially whatever the agent wants it to be. The basic profile is your typical name, email, phone numbers. But the upgraded profile, which is a premium subscription, that's where you can add in a description and your social media links, and you get a status of accepting your clients. So there's a bit more on the premium version, but it's still a fairly basic profile concept. It could take, for most agents, less than a minute to set up because they already have the description on things like their website and other social media.
Are there any trends that you're seeing for online house shopping? Like even heading into the future then, right? Because you guys are having a look at what's going on and what people are looking at.
And you're techie, so you would know.
Yeah, well, I can give you some guesses, and I can also, what we see on the site is sort of basically just real-time data, which is what you would see in the industry as well. So it's no surprise there's a lot more buyers out there looking to hire agents than there are sellers. And we've been trying to dream up some possible solutions for helping create more inventory and helping agents serve more sellers, attract sellers. So there's that, I think I don't think that's going away. And that's part of my guess what's coming in the future too, is that it's going to take a long time for inventory to catch up with the demand. I think the industry needs to adapt. What about you two? You're very involved in this. So what are your guesses at what's happening in the future?
Yeah, over the last couple of years, fast forwarded the capacity of the media that we were using. So at first, if we listed a property, we would have 20 photos, and some agents would do a virtual tour, most didn't, and some agents would create a floor plan, a professional floor plan, and most did not. I would have to say a good chunk, like 85%, 90%, now incorporate 40 photos, a floor plan, and either a virtual tour or a Matterport. So I have significantly seen an increase in videographers like coming into the industry, and like surveyors and floor plan measures.
Yeah, us too. I mean,
I work a lot in show homes as well for developers. And so the presentation center, we weren't allowing a lot of traffic to come through. And so the developer really, they have deeper pockets, obviously, than the one-off resale seller. So there was a lot of, you can actually interact with a lot of things that were in the presentation center, but all online. So it kind of
virtual.
Everything was kind of virtual, but as if you were walking through the sales center.
As an example, like changing finishes, that kind of thing?
Yeah, like being able to change layout, like place furniture on different floor plans, clicking different color schemes. So you can have 2 to 3 different color schemes on a wall palette. And typically a display, you would have 2 to 3 displays so you could see it in person. But instead, they made everything all virtual.
Even things like virtual staging of properties, because it was difficult, right? Yeah. Especially if it was in a condo or something, you have to block off the elevators to physically move the furniture and staging items in. But when during COVID, if they only allowed 1 or 2 people in an elevator, and then you're booking a move, right, to move everything in, we started moving some properties to virtual staging because it was quick, efficient, and it still afforded. I mean, it's not the same. I guess that technology hasn't developed enough right now. It will be, but it's not the same as physically still walking through. But it provides that ability for the buyer to see what they can do with the space.
Initial impression,
absolutely.
for sure.
First impression.
Initial impression online, and it's actually really cost effective to do virtual staging.
It is
way better than actual staging.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were going to say something.
What are your thoughts on platforms in terms of, like, is Realtor.ca doing what you want it to, or is there things you'd like to see it do, or would you like a different platform to exist for that? Or?
So I don't know when the last time you were in BC, but BC has a really heavy presence. REW.ca has a really heavy presence, and that's typically where I get a lot of my leads and exposure on my listings. Realtor.ca, not so as much, even though they were kind of the original on the forefront with kind of the multiple listing real estate board. Probably because it's not as visually appealing. I would have to say it looks archaic. Maybe it doesn't do a lot of the things that REW does or even Zillow does. So, like property mortgage calculations, information about the neighborhood, anything about what else do they provide? Like walk scores.
Walk score is a huge thing.
Schools in the neighborhood. So Realtor.ca tends to lack in that type of information.
Hey, if they're listening, maybe they'll revamp their site and offerings.
One day they'll be listening to every single episode.
I thought they already were. So, yeah, like I would have to say, and going back, maybe I'm going to switch the question back to you. If there's a new agent that's starting off and they were to only have one platform to choose from, like which one would you recommend that would be the most effective? Like, would that be like having a website, or would that be like Instagram or YouTube? What would you say would be the most impactful to start off with their business?
Yeah, and I think that agent needs to look at the one that they're already getting the most exposure on, essentially. Wherever they can reach their sphere of influence the most effectively is the right platform for them. So probably not a website, although they might want that link to on their social media presence. But I think most importantly, work with your sphere of influence and get those personal referrals, because my experience, what I've seen from talking to a lot of agents, is that social media doesn't generate new business from people never heard of you before. It reminds people who do know you what you're doing, how good you are at what you're doing, and that you're the right person to refer people to when they're talking to somebody. So it really, I think, is a great reminder to add to the existing channel of personal referrals. So I wouldn't look to that to be your cornerstone of creating a business. It's more of a way to amplify the business you already have and to serve your existing client base in the sphere of influence.
Okay, well, that's a good distinction. We want to get down to, I guess, some of the offerings that you have on your website and through your company. You had mentioned that there's a free subscription and also premium. Is that correct? I don't know if there's...
Correct.
Yeah. And so what are the costs, I guess, of an agent to sign up, or what kind of investment does that look like?
Yeah, it's interesting you use the term investment. I like...
Was that the wrong term?
No, I like it because I think that is a way a lot of people sell things that cost a lot of money, and ours is free or
Yes.
$137 a year. So
Okay. So it's,
we
wow.
talked to a lot of agents before we came up with it, and one of the things they always said, and they use the exact same phrase all the time, was realtors get nickeled and dimed constantly. Oh, that's good. So we thought, we're going to make something affordable and not something that, is a little small line item on their bill every month or a couple of weeks. So we just made it yearly. It's $137. It's not necessary. The basic version will work just great, and you can spend months sort of getting your momentum up, if you will, and learning it. However, at $137 investment, you can really hit the ground running and use the reviews assistant that's built into that to
Absolutely.
get a whole bunch of reviews quick and get your rankings up. So as an example, we had an agent not that long ago who the first day they subscribed to the premium subscription, and then they used the reviews assistant to ask about 80 of their past clients for reviews. And by 4:00 that day, they were the top ranked agent in their city because most of their clients came and left them a review. That's how well it works. And that agent is still the top ranked agent in their city because they're still using that tool. And when you're top ranked, people come to the site and hire you. And it only takes one deal to come from the site to pay for the subscription many years along. But we have agents that tell us they get over 20 deals a year from the site.
Wow, that's amazing. Are there, what kind of terms? Yeah, that's amazing. It's phenomenal. What kind of terms are associated with the $137 per year? Like, is there a minimum or minimum time frame, I guess, that they need to be subscribed for?
No, in fact, if they find it's not working within the first 100 days, we'll give you 100% of your money back. It is an automatic resubscribe after the year, which we send you a reminder about. But again, you can cancel at any time. And, we're not in it for the $137. We're in it to make an impact and do good. It just happens to be that when agents are invested financially, even at that small amount, they tend to get a lot more out of it. And therefore we can deliver the right agents to our consumers that are coming to the site too. So, we've had agents who sign up and they kind of forget about it. And then they don't answer emails to anybody who's inquiring to work with them. So by making sure that we're getting the buyers and sellers to the active agents, we're taking care of the buyers and sellers. And that's the whole point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you just don't have agents online. You actually feature other professionals on there as well.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Jenny. There's two other professionals we think are pretty important in the home buying process. So we have mortgage brokers and insurance agents as an option as well. They're much smaller markets for us at this point, but we wanted to give them the tools to collect reviews and leverage them in their online presence as well. So
that's a good idea. That's phenomenal.
Thank you.
No, he's on to something well, just keep doing it. It'll work. It's going to work out really well. Just keep doing it. I mean, it makes sense, right? That these are such important, pivotal people that are involved in a real estate transaction, right? And it's not a real estate transaction for the client. This is something really important and special to them where they want to feel looked after, right? So this is part of the entire process. It's not just finding a realtor. A realtor is one person, for sure. It's pivotal. We're obviously very important in terms of helping clients find the best possible place, negotiate, provide customer service. But the mortgage brokers and the inspectors are also so important in terms of allowing the client to go through that process and make sure that they make the right decision for them. So I think if you had one, it sounds like you're making one hub basically to bring all of these services together. Who wouldn't want to work with the best of the best
Yeah, and I love that you said it's not a transaction to the consumer. I mean, this is a massive change in their life, and there's a lot of things going on around it. It's not just a transaction.
Yeah, there's a lot of language in the real estate industry that my team and I don't like, and we're starting to change that too. Just like, transaction. So boring.
Yeah, I agree. And so we also have just released a basic version of Teams for the website. And I mean, you're familiar with realtor teams. However, most realtors work with other professionals as well. And so we're trying to introduce the concept of them forming teams in that sense on the website. So, if you've got your favorite mortgage broker too, you can have them join your team on the website. So that when consumers are researching who to hire, they can see, oh, this top rated agent works with this top rated mortgage broker. They're who I want to work with together.
And you had mentioned about the worthy causes. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means to you and why you chose that?
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing that up. And so that's fits into our vision of seeing how much good we can do. And for me, what that means is first we got to take care of our team because without them, we're not able to provide the service we do and do any good at all. So first, take care of our team. So do good by them, which then gives us the ability to do good by our clients. That's both the buyers and sellers and the agents. And then the last stakeholder, which a lot of people don't think about, is the communities you operate in. And so we pledge 50% of our profit to worthy causes. And in this past year, we allocated over $100,000 to end and prevent youth homelessness. And
so great.
We think that's an important thing to contribute to. And that was last year's, theme. And I think this year we're looking more towards something in the education space where we think, I'm a big believer that you try to solve problems at the source, sort of first principles thinking of why is this happening and try to correct there. So I think education can be a big part of that.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Well, this is awesome. I'm going to check into it and sign up right away. I have to admit, I'm really horrible at asking for testimonials and reviews from my clients. But I'll do better. That's my goal for 2022.
Well, I'll
do better.
I mean, you're a great realtor. I'm sure after you ask a few times and then you read what your clients are writing, it'll motivate you to continue to ask. It's always like getting over that first step, I think, because I used to be afraid to ask too. And then eventually when you get some and you get to read them, it's amazing. I mean, they can make you feel pretty great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I want to add another little bit about that in terms of, I hear from agents all the time, I don't want to ask them, it's so tough. But, I think realtors have an advantage over just about any other business. If you go for lunch, what connection does that person have with that business owner and that experience? It's just maybe an hour that they spend with them. But realtors spend hours, days, weeks, sometimes months with clients. And most of the realtors I speak to have become very good friends with most of their clients. And so they are dying to leave you a review. They're already telling people how great you are, and they would love to, be able to share it with the world. And they want people to find you and hire you instead of somebody's brother-in-law or something like that. So you're kind of doing your clients and your future clients a disservice by not asking for it.
That's a good way to think about it. Absolutely. And on that note, do you have time for the rapid fire questions that we're going to ask you?
Sure, let's try it.
He knows because he listened to a few of the podcast episodes.
Oh, yes,
he knew we were going to do it.
But you know what? Our questions are...
I did, but I forgot what they are. So.
They change all the time.
They change, actually.
Dave.
So.
Oh, good.
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
What is your favorite read at the moment?
Or listen.
Any type of knowledge, information.
I love business books and autobiographies or biographies of business people. This is not current, but one that stuck with me is I read the biography of Sam Walton, who was the founder of Walmart.
Yeah.
And Sam Walton had a long career of starting and running discount stores. He didn't start Walmart until he was in his 50s.
Oh, wow.
And he said in his biography that, like most overnight successes, Walmart was 30 years in the making. And that always resonated with me, because when you look at, say Elon Musk, you just go, oh man, everything's so easy for him. He just, everything he touches turns to gold. It's not true. These people they toil for years and years to make any kind of success happen. And so I think that's an important message to any level business person out there, or anybody trying to do anything important, is that there are no overnight successes. Just keep at what you're doing.
Good advice. Name your superpower.
As a business person, my superpower is to not quit. I'm not particularly good at anything in particular. I like figuring things out, and I will, but I'm not especially talented at anything. But most of my businesses.
Nice. That's not a
Pardon?
nice way to talk about yourself.
He's just humble. He's just humble.
I know, but okay.
Well, I've met a lot of people who are way better at a lot of things than me, and all my businesses took years and years to get to anywhere even close to being successful, and most people would have quit long before I did. But in my mind, it was just a matter of keeping at it until something worked, and the superpower there is don't give up.
Yeah, for sure. Resilience is key. You're a little bit of a nomad. Where's your favorite place to travel to?
Argentina is pretty amazing. If you've ever spent any time in Argentina, I've been there a few times for several months. And a great benefit of Argentina, when you're in Canada, in January it's winter. When you go to Argentina, it's summertime. So you can actually avoid winter altogether if you want to spend a few months in Argentina.
I love Argentina because of the dancing. So every corner you turn, there's always dancing and music.
Oh, that sounds really joyful.
It's romantic.
I should go there.
Yeah, amazing food and amazing people.
Yeah, the meat's really good too. 3 words to describe you.
Humorous, lighthearted, resilient.
Yeah, that's a good one for you. Last question. If you could start a new online business, what would it be?
This is one of the best questions I've ever heard in any interview. Because as an online entrepreneur, we're always thinking of these things, and it changes all the time. So which is weird that I don't actually have a good answer at this point. Like it would be I have a concept around sort of bringing in a real estate platform for the people using blockchain. So sort of like a Wikipedia type community of people, but focused on providing real estate information and services, and have it distributed on blockchain with, there's something called a DAO, so distributed organizations, where there's nobody in charge in particular. Everybody who's involved gets to vote on how things work and run it that way. And so I have no idea really how to do it. It's just a concept that I've been thinking about. As it would be a really fun experiment if we could get enough people to get it rolling.
That sounds cool, actually. It's very different, innovative.
Because you have so many ideas, like you've been involved with so many businesses online, and I know you talked about like your background, your education. Do you do a lot of like business consulting?
No.
No, none?
Oh, I have a few friends that are also in business that, will help each other out, or just go for a walk and talk business. But no, okay. I don't do any paid consulting.
Okay.
Are you thinking for tax?
No, he's so mysterious.
No, I love talking business, and I'll do it for free. I don't need to get paid to do it.
No, there's something about you where I don't know. I can't.
He's for the people.
Pinpoint it, but I can tell you have a lot of ideas. Like you come up with a lot of ideas, and you're trying to manage the ideas, maybe through working through those ideas with your network. But I can tell you're like an entrepreneur.
I have an idea for something VR.
Sure.
He's the man to talk to.
I had this video, so it's old now. I'm pretty sure people have been working on it. But about 5 to 7 years ago, I was talking with my brother, who's also in real estate, and we had were pretty busy at that time, and it was almost like, well, shoot, how do you would VR be an actual way
Did
to
you get
show
them to sign an NDA first?
No, I mean, honestly, if you believe in the collective, it's already out there anyhow.
Okay.
But this came to me for some reason, and I don't know anybody in tech, but I'm like, it would be great. And there's a certain way to do it, I think. So you need someone to do the tech for it. But it actually came out because we were having this experience where you can't be, and we had so many appointments. And obviously you want every single client to feel important because they are. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes when you have that many appointments, the struggle is, well, where do you fit people in? And you also don't want to rush out. You want to give them your time. So we were like, well, what's the easiest way to be efficient with time? Too bad virtual reality didn't exist, where if we were going to be hands-on and showing a house, they would wear goggles or whatever it is, but I would still be in the office and actually show them the property. So it would be like a hologram. I know this stuff has existed in Star Wars. You don't watch anything fantasy, but Star Wars and whatever for a long time. So on one hand, that would work. And then you could actually have, I mean, you're cutting down the commute time. We spend, what's the percentage of time you spend on the road each day? Like, I'm on the road a lot.
60%?
60%? Yeah. So I wanted to cut that out, but still have clients, obviously in-face meetings with clients, and then still be able to deal with certain things myself, right, as a part of client care for the clients that have already signed up. So I was thinking that I needed a virtual me, but still have it be
absolutely.
me. A conversation
A
for
virtual
another
you,
day.
and then to clone virtual you, so you can be dealing with multiple people.
Oh, I don't know about the cloning thing, but yeah, I was just thinking me as the hub. Anyhow, we can talk about it another day. We digressed. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been so much fun, and I hope we get to talk again at some point.
Hey, when are you coming back to Kamloops?
March 14th.
My family and I might be taking a trip up there to look at some real estate. Yeah.
Get in touch. Yeah, absolutely. Get in touch. If you want to do a hike, we could do that too. I can show you some stuff.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast, Dave.
Cool. Thank you very much for having me. It's been so much fun.